Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Mel, and today we are going to be getting ready for the Christmas season. If you guys are anything like me, you get books and book gift cards from family members and friends for Christmas. I'm not complaining about that. I love the fact that I get books and gift cards for Christmas, but that means that I will likely go on a shopping spree after Christmas and currently don't have anywhere to put anything. And I also have a bunch of books that I've accumulated over the last few months and still need to share with you guys. So in preparation for that, we are going to be hauling a book, and for every book that I haul, I have to unhaul one. This will at least keep the ratio even so that I am not cramming books onto the shelves and then having to cram more books onto the shelves. I really should unhaul probably 2 for every book that I haul, but we're just gonna stick with 1 for right now. I have gotten a lot of horror over the last couple of months. I think that the book haul that I did last was around or slightly before spooky season, so a lot of the books that I have not yet shared with you guys are horror. However, I do have a pretty solid group of fantasy, romance, and fantasy in here as well, so I'm excited to share all of these books with you guys. Buckle up, this could be a long one. I think I have 25 books to haul and 25 books that I need to unhaul. So I think we're gonna start with the sci-fi because I only have 2 of those. So really quickly, the first one that I wanted to haul for you guys is Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 4th and I believe final book in the Skyward series, following Spensa, who has been labeled a coward because her father was thought to be one, but she always has wanted to be a pilot and she's going to do everything that she can to be a pilot. There's an alien race that is closing in on humanity, and this series is just a lot of fun. It is young adult, but I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It's fast-paced, it's entertaining, and I'm excited to finally have the 4th and final installment. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which I wasn't sure if I was going to get this one or the regular edition. Apparently, I'm a dodo bird that pre-ordered both, so I probably should have put the unhaul as the other version because I do still have it and need to return it to the bookstore, but I think I'm gonna go with this one just because when you line up all the spines, this one looks really pretty next to the other spines. I am then going to be unhauling Paradise 1 by David Wellington. This did not work for me at all. It is a sci-fi horror that is way too much action, not enough plot or characters, and it's following a group of people that are going to this planet called Paradise 1, which is like a refugee type planet, and things don't go well along the way. Didn't work for me. I wanted to love it. I was very excited for this book, but unfortunately it did not stick the landing. The second sci-fi that I have to share with you guys is Starter Villain by John Scalzi. I have not read very many of John Scalzi's books, but I want to read more. I read The Dispatcher, liked it. I read part of Lock In and DNF'd it, but I've heard that his books kind of are hit or miss. It just depends on the book. So I did want to try this one because it is quite short, and well, it has a cat on the cover, and we love cats on the cover. Do I know what this is about? No. I think it has something to do with superheroes? Supervillains. It has something to do with supervillains, so I'm excited to find out more about that. And I'm going to be unhauling Immortality Thief, which is another sci-fi horror that I had really high hopes for but did not love. It's following a world similar to our own but not quite, and a group of people is charged with going to this spaceship to try to find the secret to immortality. It sounds interesting. It didn't work for me, but hopefully it'll work for somebody else, so I'm going to pass this along. Then we have a solid chunk of fantasy romance. So I think I'm going to go through those really quickly. The first and foremost is Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. This is one that I did not expect to enjoy. It is following a girl who has the ability to draw mortem out of things, which is basically death. And the goddess of death is like laying underground in their city and leaking death out into the world. I really enjoyed this one. It is a fantasy romance. It is a slight love triangle, and I just had a fantastic time with this one, so very glad to own this. Can't wait for the sequel. And let's see, do I have a fantasy romance that I can unhaul? I think I do. Let's see. I'm going to be unhauling The Coven by Harper L. Woods. I had fun with this, but I won't say that this is great literature by any stretch of the imagination. It is a lot of sex, but cringe, but also angsty and kind of fun. I don't know. This was a 3-star read for me, but I had fun with it. I just don't necessarily need to keep a copy of it, and the further I get away from it, the less I think about it, and so I don't necessarily want to keep it on my shelves because I will read the sequel at some point, but it's not like something that I need to be able to see and look at and remember upon fondly because I'm already slowly starting to forget it, other than it was generally a good time. Another fantasy romance that I've been hearing a ton about but was unsure if I was gonna like is The Scarlet Veil by Shelby Maharin, I think is how you say that. I'm not 100% sure. This is a vampire young adult romance. Like I said, I've heard people talk about it, but I just don't know that much about it. And I think I want to keep it that way. I think I just want to enjoy my time. It says darkness is coming for us, Seeley. It's coming for you too. It has like really pretty in papers. It is a signed edition, which I did not realize when I picked it up from the store. And I'm excited to give it a try. So since we are hauling a fantasy romance, let's unhaul a fantasy romance. And we're gonna go with The High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford. I wanted to love this because I had heard so much about it, but it did not work for me at all. It's about fae and witches and how they are kind of warring against one another and one girl that gets caught in the middle. It has a fated mates trope, which I am not a huge fan of. I just generally didn't vibe with the writing style of this one, so I don't need to keep it. I don't plan to continue on in the series. Another fantasy romance is The Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. I had a great time with this one. It's following a woman who is able to heal people, and she's always thought that her brother was dead, but one day he comes busting through the doors and turns her world upside down. While they're on the run, she gets taken by the court of the Onyx and taken to the brutal king. She's trying to escape, and things go from there. I had a fun time with this one, so I'm curious to see where she's gonna go with the sequel. I think it comes out in April. I actually have an arc of it, and I really want to read it sooner than April, but I feel like now it's just a little bit too early. So hopefully I will be able to read that, share my thoughts on it very soon. And unhauling another fantasy romance is War by Laura Thalassa. This is the sequel to Pestilence in the Four Horsemen series. Companions, whatnot. Basically, it's following a world where the four horsemen are now raining down upon the earth and basically starting over, and the four women that are going to steal their hearts. This one was way too smutty for me, not enough plot, and so I just don't plan to keep it. Or continue on in the series for that matter. Then I think this is a fantasy romance. I'm not 100% positive, but Godkiller by Hannah Kaner. I've heard a lot about this one. It originally came out first in the UK and then it came out over here in the US. I'm glad that I was able to find it in paperback. Do I know anything about this? Not really, but it's compared to The Witcher and Gideon of the Ninth. So maybe it's not a fantasy romance. Maybe I was making that up. I don't know. I like the cover. I'm curious about it. It's not super long and we're gonna give it a try. I guess in the same vein of, I'm not sure if it's a fantasy romance we're going to be unhauling The Wolf of Oren Yarrow by K.S. Velosa. I had this one sent to me very randomly. It's kind of a weird story, but it showed up on my doorstep with my name on it from somebody that I've never met and wasn't the publisher. It was very strange. And so I did keep this one because I thought that I was going to try to pick it up, but people that I trust that really liked this first book said the series just kind of went downhill, and I'm not super into reading it anyway. It's been sitting on my shelves for a very long time. Hearing that the series does go downhill after a time just doesn't make me want to pick it up, so I think it's finally time that I retire this one. I can always get it from the library if I choose to pick it up. Okay, and the last fantasy romance is The Curse of Saints by Kate Dramis, and I'm really excited to give this one a try. It is about a girl that was chosen by the gods, but it probably wasn't a good decision, and now she is going to have to use will and untold powers to save the realm she loves or destroy it. Sounds interesting. I mean, it's a fantasy romance. It's probably going to have a very similar plot to a lot of fantasy romances, but honestly, I'm in my fantasy romance era and I'm here for it. So I'm excited to read this one. I did not know that this was traditionally published, which I guess it is and it isn't. It's published by Source Books. So like it is, but it's also not. And I was shocked to find this at Barnes & Noble, but it was buy one, get one half off, which sparked kind of me picking up Godkiller when I was buying these because I cannot miss a good deal. I don't really have another like fantasy romance, I don't think, to unhaul, so I am going to be unhauling Defy the Night by Bridget Kimmerer. I don't think I've unhauled this officially on a video yet, but this is a young adult fantasy. I liked her other Beauty and the Beast retelling, Curse So Dark and Lonely, I think is what it was called. And so I grabbed this one when it came out and I just haven't really had the urge to pick it up. I read the first chapter. It was generally okay. I gave it like a 5 out of 10 when I read it, and it didn't grip me and it doesn't make me want to keep it on my shelves. So I do think that I'm going to be unhauling this one. Okay. So I think that was all of the fantasy romance. Before we go into the fantasy, let me go through this big giant stack of horror that is sitting next to me. So I acquired a lot of horror and maybe 1 or 2 thrillers in the months of September and October, preparing for spooky season. I have no regrets, honestly. I'm here for it. I want to read more horror, figure out what I like in horror, so we've got a big stack sitting next to me. The first of which is Let Him In by William Friend. I'm not going to be unhauling one to go along with this because I'm unhauling this one. Did not like it, was not a fan. I wanted to love it because like, look at the cover. It looks incredible, but it did not work for me at all. The ending made me mad. And so this one's just gonna go. It's just gonna go. It's about a guy whose twin daughters come to him and tell him that there is a man in their room and they are all dealing with the grief and the loss of his late wife. That sounds incredible. Didn't deliver on that. So this one's just gonna go ahead and go in the unhaul pile and we're just gonna swap it off. Then we have Everything the Darkness Eats by Eric LaRocca. I really wanted to read an Eric LaRocca. I've not tried any of his books before. I did have a short story collection by him, but I wanted to have a more full-length novel. And I'll be honest, this one just got me because of the way that it is formatted, because we have like darkness throughout the pages and the pitch black cover. It was a cover by, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm excited to give it a try. It's about a darkness that threatens a New England village when occult forces are conjured and when the bigotry is left unrestrained. I don't know anything else about it, but I need to try some Eric LaRocca. I don't know that I'm gonna have enough quote unquote horror to officially unhaul, but we're gonna try. So for that one, I'm gonna unhaul Pinata by Leopoldo Gout. I wanted to love this one. It is a Mexican inspired horror, and I thought that that was gonna be really cool to learn more about the culture and some of their legends, but it just didn't really hit on those points and was a little bit disappointing for me. So I think that this one is going to have to go. Then I guess I will haul Come Closer by Sarah Gran. I think this one's gonna follow in the footsteps of Let Him In and be a haul unhaul, because this one was fine but didn't really grip me. It's about a woman who is possessed by a demon and you follow her as she is slowly becoming more possessed by said demon. It has a very quirky style, a very stream of conscious writing style, which was not my favorite. I can see why people would like this, but it just didn't really work for me. So we're gonna haul and unhaul. Then we have The Ravenous Dead by Darcy Coates. I need all of the Darcy Coates. It is my goal to own her entire backlist at some point in time, probably even the ones that I didn't like because they just look so satisfying sitting next to one another. This is the second book in the, what is it called series? Gravekeeper series. Didn't like book one, pleasantly surprised by book two. It's following Kira, who is running through the woods with no memory, and she knows she's running from someone when she stumbles upon the doorstep of this priest, and he lets her in and she realizes that she is able to talk to the dead. And so she stays in this town, makes a bunch of friends, and helps the dead go into the afterlife. It's very Ghost Whisperers vibes, and I wasn't expecting the cozy type story when I read the first one. Going into the second one expecting cozy, much better. So just know this is a cozy mystery / horror. And if you know that going in, hopefully you will enjoy it. So I guess we're gonna unhaul I think this is a thriller. I'm not really sure, but that is The Girl Last Seen by Nina Lauren. I've had this sitting on my shelves for forever. I bought it secondhand, I think at a half price books 5 or 6 years ago, and have had zero desire to pick it up. So I don't need to keep it anymore. I don't even really know what this is about. I think it's about a girl that goes missing and they're trying to find out her whereabouts. And then she comes back and she's trying to come to grips with who replaced her in the basement. And apparently now there is another girl that has gone missing. This sounds fine. It sounds interesting, but I will, like I said, just get it from the library if I decide that I want that one later. Then we have The Nightmare Man by J.H. Market. This is following a guy who is an author and he is able to create some of the most horrific things and is dubbed the Nightmare Man when one day the police show up on his doorstep because someone is recreating the murders in his books. This I liked, but I don't know that I loved, but I liked. So I do think I'm gonna keep it for right now. I think it was about, I'm pretty sure I gave it a 3-star if I'm not mistaken. Then we're gonna unhaul The Deep by Nick Cutter. Nick Cutter's writing style just does not work for me. Not only does it not work for me, but the people that love The Troop also said that they didn't love The Deep, and so I just have zero desire to keep this, knowing that fans of his works don't like this one either. So we're gonna pass that one along. Sorry to Rye because I think she gifted that to me, but I also think she would be okay with me unhauling it. So next up we have Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. This was gonna be for a video and then I ended up not picking this one, but I still want to read it. It's about a group of authors that go to this house in order to all kind of come together, get some books done. I believe that they're horror authors, and they basically become the source of one of their horror novels. It says it was supposed to be a simple publicity stunt. 4 famous horror authors spending the night in one of the world's most notorious haunted houses. Things obviously do not go as planned. Then I'm gonna unhaul A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I recently read this and just wasn't impressed by it. I felt like it was very basic and just generally fine, I guess, but it didn't blow me away by any stretch of the imagination, so I don't think that I need to keep it. It's following a psychiatrist whose dad was a serial killer, and now people are starting to die in the same manner that he previously killed people. Next up, we have Where He Can't Find You, another one by Darcy Coates. This is her young adult book that just came out about the Stitcher, and I am so very excited to be picking this one up. I'm hoping to get to it before the end of the year. It's December 1st at the time that I'm filming this, so we will see if I'm able to get to it before the end of the year, but I am super excited to read this one. I haven't really heard that many people talk about it yet, so if you enjoyed this, please let me know down in the comments below. So I'm then going to be unhauling a thriller, which is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Don't come for me, I haven't read this yet, but I just think that the longer I have it, the less interested I become in it. I've heard some amazing things about this book, and I'm not saying that I'm never going to read it. I just don't necessarily need to keep this on the shelves. If I decide to pick it up, when I decide to pick this up, I will be getting it from the library, and I think it is following two dads who are trying to get vengeance for their dead sons. Next up, we have What Kind of Mother by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is his newest book, and one that I wanted to love but didn't absolutely love. This is following a woman who comes back to her hometown. She's trying to make ends meet, and she is working as a palm reader when her old high school flame comes to her and tries to enlist her help to find his missing son. There are crabs. It is weird, but not in a way that really worked for me, but I know it does work for a lot of people, so there is that one. I'm gonna keep that one for now, and we are gonna unhaul another thriller, which is The Last Flight by Julie Clark, another book of the month edition that I have had since 2020 and have not read yet, will not be picking up anytime soon, do not need to keep on my shelves. It's a thriller about a person that goes on a flight. The flight does not go well. Then we're going to be hauling The Last to Leave the Room by Caitlin Starling. This is the Evernight edition from Illumicrate, and I absolutely love the cover of this book. It is so creepy and so weird, and the edges, it's incredible. They did an amazing job with this edition. Very excited to read this. Do I really know what it's about? I don't. It's about a basement, and it belongs to the Dr. Rivers, who is the selfish head of a research team, and they're trying to find the source of the substance. I don't really know what the substance is, and she is obsessed with this. Her employer is growing suspicious, and she's trying to hold herself together long enough to find out what her double wants from her and just where a mysterious door leads. So, sounds good, sounds interesting, very excited to give that one a go. Love the cover of that. And again, I ran out of horror, so we're going to be unhauling The Perfect Stranger by Megan Miranda. This I've had, again, for forever. I don't know how long, but I'm not going to be reading this one anytime soon. It is a thriller. I've read a Megan Miranda before and was only somewhat impressed by it. I thought it was generally fine, but didn't really make me want to just go pick up another Megan Miranda. Then we have The Nestlings by Nat Cassidy, which I loved. I gave this one 5 stars. This is following a woman and her husband who have recently had a child, and in childbirth, she lost the use of her legs. They've been going through a rough patch, and they get picked by the housing lottery to move into one of the most famous, most expensive buildings in New York City. They decide to move in, and it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well at all. This has got Rosemary's Baby vibes, but there's a lot more to it than that. I thought that the dedication at the end of this was absolutely incredible. Please read the author's note, but loved this one. Highly recommend. And then I'm going to be unhauling Breathless by Amy McCulloch. Again, this is another one I've had since May of 2022. I thought that I would read it kind of in one of those winter months when it was cold, but then I had some reviews coming in of it, people that I trusted that told me I would not like this book, so I don't plan to keep it. If I do decide to read it, again, I will get it from the library, but people that I know and trust told me to unhaul it, so I am going to listen to them. Then we're gonna haul The Boys in the Valley by Philip Frykowski. This is a possession story about a home for boys and the demon that decides to take over. It is very Lord of the Flies vibes. I'd heard this one was like super scary, and unfortunately it really didn't blow me away on the scary front. It was okay. I think that if you like a possession Lord of the Flies type story, this one will work well for you, but it just kind of missed the mark a little bit for me. But I still think I'm gonna keep it for now and read more from that author in the future. I think that I have officially run out of horrors that I want to unhaul for the moment. and thrillers, all the things. So we're just gonna start going from the other pile and unhaul Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is the Illumicrate edition, I believe, and it's not really my vibe anymore. When I got it, I was hopeful to read it. It's not very long. I tried the first chapter of it, did not love the first chapter of it, and just decided that it's not something that I'm interested in reading anymore. And since I didn't love the first chapter, I am going to be getting rid of this, letting it go to a home that can appreciate it because it is really, really pretty. Then we're going to be hauling Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I read this one very recently. There is actually an exclusive vlog on my Patreon. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on this, it is about a woman who left the cult that was her family 7 years ago. She gets an invitation to go back for a wedding and she decides that she's going to spite everyone and go, and it gets real wild real quick. This one was a lot of fun. It went a little too weird and campy for me at times, but I do think that it was a fun time and a great October read. Next up, I'm going to be unhauling The Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I had fun with this one, but it's just not one that I need to keep on my shelves. It's not one that I will ever reread. And it is about people that are able to body jump and a Hunger Games-like competition. I think that this could have been a lot better done, a lot more in-depth, but I do think that it was a fun one-sitting kind of read. I just, like I said, will never reread it. I don't even know. I'm assuming it'll have a sequel, but I'll just grab the sequel from the library. 2 more horror thrillers to go. These are probably more thriller than horror. Next up is Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. This one has been described to me as like Twilight meets something, and I don't even remember what Twilight met in this one, but I know that it is about a small town. I think it has vampires involved with it. I've heard generally good things about this one, and I'm curious to try another Ashley Winstead. I have read The Last Housewife, and I liked it. Wasn't obsessed with it like a lot of people were, but I did like it, and so I'm excited to revisit her writing and see what she can do in this newest book. I guess then we're going to be unhauling The Luminaries by Sarah Dennard. This is a Illumicrate exclusive copy. It does have very pretty edges. It is a young adult fantasy. I was mildly interested in it when I got it, but again, it was a subscription box, so I didn't exactly know I was going to be getting this one. And then some of the reviews started coming in and they weren't the most positive about things that I would like and I would enjoy. So I do think that I'm going to be unhauling this one. I'm very selective about my young adult fantasies that I read now, and this just doesn't sound like my thing. And the last horror thriller that I have for you guys is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nougat. This is one that Lexi has been raving about. She said that it is a psychological genre-bending book that is kind of thriller, kind of horror, kind of literary, and I'm very curious about this mashup. I do really like a psychological horror, so I'm very curious to give this one a try. It's about Sally Diamond, who people are unsure like how to read, how to take her, but suddenly she finds herself in the spotlight, and this is going to be digging into her past where they start to find out things that she wanted to stay buried or she couldn't remember. I'm not sure which, but I've heard good things about this one, so I'm excited to try it. And I guess like I said, am out of a lot of horror thrillers, but I do have one left, and that is The Empire with the Vampire by Anne Rice. Don't come for me. I am going to be unhauling this one. Read the first couple of chapters. I don't even think it really has chapters. It just kind of has like little breaks, which honestly annoyed the crap out of me. And the classic writing style I couldn't really get into. I will probably try this again one day, but I don't need to have a physical copy of it in order to do that. Then we are going to be hauling some fantasy, and I'm going to start with an indie fantasy, which is The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. I'm very excited to read this one. It is one of the SPF B09 finalists that I cannot wait to pick up. So many people are talking about how much they enjoyed this. It's about a guy who decides to steal a pocket watch, but this pocket watch has a lot more to it than meets the eye, and he is then thrust into a world of horrors, powerful politicians, and dangers on every side. He has got to decide who to trust, but his #1 rule is to trust no one. I cannot wait to read this. I think that I'm really going to enjoy it. And in this one, we are going to be unhauling The Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I've had this one on my shelves for forever. I'm not really interested in it. I read the first chapter of it and did not give it a super high score. I think it was like a 5 out of 10, a 4.5 out of 10. And that just kind of reaffirmed to me that I am not going to be this is not really really going to be the book for me, and so I think that I'm finally going to just get it off of my shelves. It is about a band getting together. It has a humorous undertone. It is super fast-paced, none of which are really buzzwords for me, so I think that it's going to be Unhauled. Then we have the chunker that is The Darkness Before Them by Matthew Ward. Have I read the other Matthew Ward yet? No. Did I buy this one anyway? Apparently. This is about a kingdom who has mists that are coming in from every side and a girl that just wants to be free, go about her life, but she has one last big score that she thinks is going to settle a debt for her. But in the middle of all of this, things go awry and she has got to decide what side she is going to be on for the upcoming battle. I am very curious to see how Matthew Ward's writing has been polished and evolved since his previous series, but I really need to read the previous series before reading this one, so I don't know why I bought this, except for I did because it's pretty and I wanted to try it. Then I'm going to be unhauling the Martha Wells The Witch King. This is one that I wanted to love. I liked Murderbot, probably not as much as the general population, but I do like Murderbot, and so I was really hopeful for this one. I got about 20% into it and just decided it wasn't working for me. It is a very slow story about the Witch King who's supposed to be all-powerful, but he actually doesn't really seem all-powerful, and I don't even know that I really got to the plot of the story, but at 25%, I really should have been understanding the plot of the story, so it just wasn't working for me, and that's okay. So I'm going to find it a home where somebody will enjoy it more than I did. Next up, we have one that was sent to me by the publisher, so thank you so much, Orbit, for sending me Griever's Blood by Alexander Darwin. I read Combat Codes earlier this year, not too long ago actually. Really enjoyed Combat Codes. It took me by surprise, especially the latter half of the book. And if you guys don't know, this is a self-published series that was picked up by Orbit. I do think that there have been a couple of like additions and rearrangings of things, so it is slightly different from its original version, but I really enjoyed book one. Very excited to read book two. Fingers crossed, but I am going to try to read this before the end of the year. And it is a sci-fi fantasy about Seago and kind of this like martial arts fighting ring. So unhauling a fantasy, we're going to unhaul a fantasy, and that is Among Thieves by M.J. Kuhn. This is just one that did not work for me. It's a TBR vet that I really just wanted to try to decide whether or not I needed to keep it and continue on in the series or whether I wanted to get rid of it. Unfortunately, I do want to get rid of it. It is a heist story, but it's kind of all over the map, following way too many characters, and I just never was able to connect or get behind any of them, especially in a book that's really not that long. So didn't work for me. I'm going to be unhauling this one. Last but not least, we have The Flight of the Wren by Winter Fox. This is one that I picked up in Maine, not realizing that it's a Maine author, and it also was signed, so that's pretty cool. This is about Norsemen and magic and an epic battle, and I am very excited to give this a try. I had never heard of it before I was in that bookshop in Maine, did not have any clue that she was from Maine, but I'm excited to pick this up. It is an independently published book, which we always love, and I'm going to give that one a try very soon. By hauling a fantasy, we're going to unhaul a fantasy once again, and that is Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. This is one that I really wanted to love because like it's a very pretty edition. It's a Goldsboro edition, but when I did the first chapter tag, tried this one, it ended up giving like a 5.5, not very high, like a 3-star prediction at best, and a lot of the reviews that I have seen do support that, so I don't think that I am going to be continuing to read this one or keeping it in my library. It's about a dragon that decides to become human. So the dragon falls from dragonhood from the sky and decides to become human. It sounds like it could be an interesting story, but the execution and the writing style I just wasn't really vibing with, so this one is going to go. Okay, I think that is all of the, I want to say 25 books that I had to talk to you guys about today. Sorry I wasn't able to unhaul a horror for every horror that I hauled. I think that that's everything. Thank you guys so very much for hanging out with me. Let me know, are you planning to get books for Christmas? Is that what you have asked for? Are you gonna go on a shopping spree and get yourself something new? Or are you just gonna go to the library and haul a bunch of things from the library? Because there's nothing wrong with that too. If you just want to let me know that you were here and hanging out, but you don't really have a whole lot to say, leave me a broom emoji because we are sweeping these books out of my house. As always, links to my Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads are all in the description box below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!